someone was inside my apartment. Not a feeling, not paranoia. A fact, because the deadbolt was still locked. Yet my mother's perfume was drifting through the hallway like a warning. I stood with my keys halfway to the lock, listening to the soft scrape of something being dragged across my kitchen tile. Then my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number, same message. He didn't die naturally. Don't sign anything. I didn't call the police. I didn't breathe. I just stepped back, letting the hallway light swallow me, and realized the only person who could have sent that text was someone who had been in my grandfather's house the night he died, or someone who wanted me to believe they were. My name is Jace Mercer. I'm 26. 10 years ago, my parents shoved me out the front door with a duffel bag and a line I still hear in my sleep. You're not built for this family. Tonight, my grandfather's will was read in a courthouse downtown. Quiet wood paneling, bright fluorescent lights, and my parents dressed like they'd already won. I walked into that room expecting a watch, a letter, something small to keep him close. What I got instead was a death sentence wrapped in money, because when the attorney turned a page, the air changed. My brother, Grant, leaned back like a king, and then my grandfather's voice, through a stranger's mouth, handed me everything. The entirety of the Mercer holdings, valued at approximately $4.9 billion, is hereby left to my grandson, Jace Mercer. Sole control, immediate transfer, no trustees, no family oversight. My mother's smile broke like glass. My father made a sound, half laugh, half choke. Grant sat up so fast his chair squealed. And I swear, for one perfect second, none of them could remember how to pretend. Then my mother reached for my hand across the aisle, nails polished, grip tight as a trap. "Sweetheart," she whispered, voice honeyed, "you're overwhelmed. Let us carry this for you." My father nodded, already selling the story with his eyes. "It's too much responsibility. We'll protect you. You'll thank us." Grant didn't bother with kindness. He smirked and leaned close enough for me to smell his cologne. "Don't be stupid, Jace. You can't even keep a steady lease. You'll drown in it." I didn't answer. Because beneath the shock, something darker started moving. Memory, pattern, instinct. The way my grandfather used to pause before he spoke, like he was measuring the room for knives. And as my family's voices rose, guidance, protection, family, I heard that text message again in my head. He didn't die naturally. Don't sign anything. I left the courthouse alone. By the time I reached my apartment, someone was already waiting inside. In the Mercer house, love had a dress code. My father, Cal Mercer, ran regional operations for a logistics empire that was family-owned, in the way a shark owns the ocean. My mother, Evelyn, collected charity boards like trophies. Grant, my older brother, was their masterpiece. Varsity captain, business school, perfect grin for cameras. Me? I was the misprint. I liked drawing storefronts and dead trees in the margins of school notebooks. I read books that didn't help at cocktail parties. I didn't know how to fake laughter on cue. Every time I failed to perform, my parents acted like I'd embarrassed them publicly. When Grant got a car at 16, my father tossed him the keys with a proud smile. When I asked for help buying used tires for my rusted sedan, my father didn't even look up from his phone. Work harder. At 17, dinner became trial. My mother would sigh dramatically at my silence, like my quietness was an insult. Grant would twirl his keys, smirking, knowing the rules were written in his favor. And my father, cold, measured, would stare at me like he was calculating the cost of keeping me. The night before my 18th birthday, he leaned across the table and said softly, "If you're still under this roof at 18, you're a failure." They didn't kick me out quietly, they made it a show. My mother called me into the living room. Grant sat on the couch like he'd bought the place. My father stood with an envelope he never intended to fill. "We're teaching you responsibility," he said. "No more support." The envelope was empty, symbolic, like me. I slept in my car behind a grocery store that night, watching Grant's social media glow with photos from a fraternity party, new laptop, new watch, my parents smiling beside him like they'd done something noble. The only person who didn't abandon me was my grandfather, Harlan Mercer. He didn't call my parents monsters. He didn't have to. He'd just let me crash on his couch on weekends, slide me grocery money when he thought I wasn't looking, and say things like, "You keep your head when other people get loud, that's rare." Then he got sick. Not the dramatic kind, no big hospital scenes, just the slow tightening of time. When he died, I cried in my car in the courthouse parking lot, forehead against the steering wheel, feeling like the last solid thing in my life had been pulled out. And then the will happened. After the reading, my father cornered the attorney in the hallway, smiling too hard. My mother stood behind him like a second shadow. "We'll handle the transition," my father said. The attorney, Mason Reed, didn't blink. "Your father's instructions are explicit. Mr. Mercer gave Jace sole control." Grant laughed under his breath. "Yeah, until he makes one mistake." That's when my mother's hand slid into my jacket pocket. So smoothly, it almost felt affectionate. Except she wasn't touching me. She was feeling for the envelope Mason Reed had handed me. I caught her wrist. Her eyes widened in a flash of pure, cold anger before she rebuilt her smile. "Oh, darling, just helping." I stepped back. In the elevator mirror, I saw my own face. Pale, stunned, but something else too. An older kind of fear waking up. Because my grandfather didn't just leave me money, he left me a reason for them to come hunting. I didn't answer my mother's calls. I didn't open my father's emails. For 48 hours, the silence felt like armor. Then Mason Reed called. "Jace," he said, voice tight. "Did you authorize anyone to represent you at First Harbor Bank?" My stomach dropped. "No. There was an attempt to withdraw $8 million, he said. Someone arrived with a letter claiming power of attorney, forged signature, fake notary stamp. They were confident." I didn't ask who. My hands were already shaking. When I hung up, my phone immediately buzzed with a text from Grant. "Stop being dramatic. Dad's just trying to keep you from ruining everything." A second text arrived, unknown number. "Check your grandfather's safe. Left side panel." My heart hammered. I hadn't told anyone about the safe. Not even Mason. I drove to my grandfather's house at midnight, headlights off the last block, like I was breaking into my own bloodline. The place looked normal. Trim lawn, porch light, security cameras blinking red. Except the camera above the garage was angled wrong. Someone had moved it. Inside, the house smelled like old leather and cedar, like Harlan was still sitting in his chair. I went straight to the study, hands sweating, and knelt by the safe built into the wall behind a framed oil painting. Left side panel. I ran my fingers along the seam. It clicked. A slim compartment opened, hiding a black flash drive and a folded page in my grandfather's handwriting. "Jace, if you are reading this, they've already started. Don't argue, don't plead, document. And do not, under any circumstance, sign anything they put in front of you." My throat tightened. The paper trembled in my hands. Then I heard the floorboard creak behind me. I spun. No one. But the air felt used. I grabbed the flash drive and drove home without turning on the radio, watching for headlights in my rearview mirror. Twice I saw a dark SUV hang back at the same distance. Twice it turned when I turned. At my apartment building, the front desk clerk was asleep. The elevator smelled like bleach. When I got to my floor, the hallway lights flickered like they were tired. My door was locked. My deadbolt was locked. And yet, as I stepped closer, I saw the thinnest line of fresh wood near the frame. Someone had used a shim. Inside, nothing looked stolen. No ransacked drawers, no broken closet. Just my kitchen chair pulled out, angled toward the living room like someone had sat there waiting. On the counter, perfectly centered, was a single sheet of paper, plain printer paper. We can do this the easy way, no signature, no threat spelled out. Just the promise that they'd already crossed into my space. And as my phone buzzed again with my mother's number, I realized the money wasn't the weapon. It was the bait. The next morning, my mother showed up at my door like she still owned the key. She didn't knock, she rang once, quick, sharp, then smiled when I opened, as if we were catching up before brunch instead of circling an inheritance like wolves. "Oh, Jace," she breathed. "You look exhausted. This is so much for you." She stepped inside without permission. Her eyes moved fast. Safe places, papers, corners, searching. "I'm fine," I said. She sat on my couch, smoothing her skirt, and the room shrank around her. "We're just worried," she said. "Your grandfather's companies are complicated, dangerous. There are contracts, people. If you make the wrong call, you'll get swallowed." My father called 30 minutes later. "We have a meeting set up," he said. "Bank, advisors. You just need to sign a temporary management agreement. Standard." I almost laughed. Temporary, standard. Like the empty envelope on my 18th birthday. "Email it," I said, and hung up. A minute later, Grant's number flashed. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail anyway, his tone playful, cruel. "Bro, you can play tough, but you're out of your depth. Dad's been handling money forever. You're a sketchbook guy. Don't embarrass yourself." Sketchbook guy. I stared at my hands. The same hands that had cleaned restaurant kitchens, stocked shelves, changed tires in the rain, kept myself alive without them. That night, I plugged in the flash drive. The first file was a video, grainy, from a hidden camera angle inside my grandfather's study. Harlan sat at his desk, thinner than I remembered, eyes sharp. "If you're watching this," he said, "it means I'm gone, and they're already lying." He didn't say names, he didn't have to. "They will tell you you're weak," he continued. "They will tell you you're unfit. They will offer help with one hand while the other picks your pocket. And they will try to make you feel guilty for protecting what I built." He paused, breathing carefully. "Jace, I didn't leave this to you because I felt sorry. I left it to you because you're the only Mercer who doesn't confuse love with leverage." My eyes burned. The next folder was labeled Read, Legal Safe Lock. Inside were scanned documents and one headline screenshot that made my stomach go cold. Mercer Holdings Audit. Internal fraud suspected. Dated 2 months before Harlan's death. And underneath it, a spreadsheet. Names, account numbers, transfers. My father's name, Grant's name. Amounts that made my throat close. I sat in the dark and listened to my own breathing, realizing the will wasn't just a gift. It was a verdict. And that unknown text, "He didn't die naturally," suddenly felt less like drama and more like a warning from someone who'd seen the same numbers I was seeing. Because if my grandfather was about to expose them, then his sickness might not have been the whole story. They couldn't steal from the bank, so they stole my reputation. It started with sideways looks at the grocery store. A neighbor who used to wave now pretended not to see me. Then a coworker pulled me aside and asked quietly, "Is it true you manipulated your grandfather?" By Friday, someone had posted on the local community page, "Rumor. Mercer grandson stole family fortune. Parents devastated, no source, no proof, just poison." My mother called crying, real tears, practiced sorrow. "People are so cruel," she said. "You don't deserve this. Let us handle it. Let us speak for you." Speak for me, like they always had. Then a courier delivered a folder to my door, glossy, formal, stamped with a court seal. Petition for financial guardianship. They were claiming I was mentally unstable, impulsive, incapable of managing assets, asking a judge to put my estate under their control. I was 26 years old. I stared at the paperwork until the words blurred, then felt something inside me go very quiet. Not fear, focus. Mason Reed answered on the first ring. "They filed it," I said. "I know," he replied. "And Jace, there's something else. Your grandfather added clauses, hard clauses. The moment they tried the bank, they triggered the first alarm." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means they're not just fighting you," Mason said. "They're walking into a trap your grandfather built." That night, I went back to Harlan's house again, because something about the study video didn't fit. The camera angle was too perfect. Harlan didn't look surprised. He looked like he was speaking to someone behind the lens. I searched the room, hands trembling, until I found a second flash drive taped under the desk drawer. No label. I plugged it into my laptop in the car. One audio file. I pressed play. Harlan's voice, weak, coughing, followed by another voice, low, male, unfamiliar. "You want him to inherit," the man said. "Yes," Harlan whispered. "He's the only one who won't sell his soul." "And if they come for him?" the man asked. Harlan exhaled. "Then we'll know who killed the family long before I died." The audio cut off abruptly. My skin prickled. This wasn't just inheritance planning. This was an investigation, and someone else had been in on it. When I drove home, a dark SUV idled across the street from my building with its lights off. It didn't move when I parked. It didn't move when I went inside. But my phone buzzed again with that unknown number. "Your brother isn't the biggest problem." I didn't hire a flashy financial advisor. I hired a man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Noah Klein was a forensic accountant with silver hair and tired eyes. He'd worked corporate fraud cases for the state before going private. Mason Reed brought him in quietly. Noah took one look at the spreadsheet on Harlan's drive and didn't react, just nodded like he'd expected it. "These transfers aren't sloppy," he said. "They're confident. They've been doing this a while." "How long?" I asked. Noah typed fast, eyes narrowed. "Years." The air left my lungs. My grandfather had been alive. He'd been watching them steal. Noah slid the screen toward me. "See this? The money moved through shell vendors, fake invoices, real accounts. Your father created a pipeline. Your brother used it." "And my grandfather?" I asked, voice tight. Noah's mouth flattened. "Your grandfather started pulling thread, and then he died." There it was. The thought I couldn't say out loud. Mason Reed arrived later with a thick envelope. "Harlan left you something else," he said. "Not in the will, separate instructions." Inside was a notarized document titled Disinheritance Trigger Protocol. If any listed parties attempted to seize control of the estate, impersonate the heir, or manipulate legal guardianship, they would be legally barred from receiving any future proceeds, assets, or settlements tied to Mercer Holdings. My father and mother's names were on the list, Grant's too. Mason looked at me. "They just escalated, which means if we play this right, they lose everything." I should have felt relief. Instead, dread rolled in. Because people who are about to lose everything don't behave politely. That night, my apartment building's fire alarm went off at 2:13 a.m. Everyone poured into the hallways, coughing, confused. I stepped outside into the cold, heart pounding, and watched smoke drift from the trash room on the first floor. A small fire, contained, too convenient. While everyone stared downward, I glanced up, toward my floor. My window was open. I hadn't opened it. I sprinted back in, ignoring shouts. The elevator was slow. I took the stairs 2 at a time. When I reached my apartment, the door was closed, but the deadbolt was turned, unlocked. Inside, my desk drawers were open. My laptop was gone. Not stolen for resale, stolen for what was on it. And on my kitchen counter, the same printer paper as before, centered like a message. Stop digging. They made the hearing feel like a funeral for me. My mother wore black. My father sat perfectly upright, projecting calm concern. Grant sat beside them like a witness to my decline, jaw set, eyes shining with the certainty of entitlement. Their attorney spoke first. "Your Honor, my clients are deeply concerned for their son's well-being," he said. "Mr. Mercer has no history of financial management. He has lived a transient lifestyle. He is emotionally compromised by grief and susceptible to exploitation. This estate is too large, too sensitive, too dangerous for someone in his condition." Dangerous. That word landed wrong. Too specific. Mason stood, calm, measured. "This isn't about well-being," he said. "It's about greed and fraud." He presented the forged power of attorney attempt, the bank record, the false notary stamp. My father's face barely moved, but his hand tightened on the table. Then Mason played the voicemail from Grant. "Sketchbook guy, you'll drown. Dad should take it." Grant's smile slipped. Mason followed with Noah Klein's preliminary audit showing suspicious transfers tied to Cal and Grant. And then Mason delivered the thing that changed the room. A letter in Harlan's handwriting, dated 3 weeks before his death. "If they try to take what isn't theirs, it will prove why I chose Jace. Their cruelty raised him. Their neglect sharpened him. My estate belongs to him alone." My mother's pearls trembled. My father's eyes hardened. The judge's expression didn't change, but her voice did, clean, sharp. "Petition denied," she said. "The estate remains solely under Mr. Jace Mercer's control." My mother turned immediately, reaching for me as if the ruling was merely a misunderstanding. "Jace, darling, listen." I stepped back. And that's when my father leaned close enough for only me to hear. His voice was soft, controlled. "You think you've won," he whispered. "You don't know what your grandfather was involved in. You don't know who's coming." I froze, because he sounded afraid, not of losing money, of something else. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited. Local news, bloggers, hungry faces. Grant pushed past me, jaw clenched, but as he passed he muttered, "You're going to get yourself killed." And for the first time, I believed he might not have meant it as an insult. Noah called me that night. "Jace," he said. I pulled the medical examiner's report. My throat tightened. "What about it?" Noah hesitated. "Your grandfather's listed cause of death is cardiac failure, but his toxicology panel shows something that doesn't belong." "What?" I snapped. "A sedative," Noah said. "High level, hospital grade, the kind you don't accidentally take." My hands went numb. So the text was right. He didn't die naturally. Mason and I met at Harlan's house again, this time with Noah. We walked through the kitchen, the hallway, the bedroom. Everything looked normal until Noah opened the medicine cabinet and stared. "One bottle is missing," he said. Mason frowned. "How do you know?" Noah pointed to a ring of dust on the shelf. Something sat here a long time, then disappeared. We searched the house. In the garage, behind paint cans, I found a plastic bag with an empty pill bottle inside, label scraped off. Mason held it up carefully. Someone wanted this gone. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. Your father paid for the prescription. Check the pharmacy records. Noah's eyes widened. That's impossible unless someone has access, Mason finished. We drove straight to Noah's office. He ran a background pull on pharmacy billing tied to Cal Mercer's corporate insurance. 10 minutes later, he leaned back slowly, face drained. It's there, he whispered. Prescription filled 2 days before Harlan died. My stomach turned. So, my father, Mason held up a hand. We don't jump yet, we prove. As we talked, my phone rang. Grant. I answered, voice flat. What? Silence, breathing. Then, quietly, he didn't trust Dad, Grant said. He didn't trust me, he told me that. You're telling me this now? I demanded. Grant's voice cracked just slightly. Because if you keep digging, Dad's going to blame me, and if Dad goes down, he'll drag everyone with him. Why should I believe you? I asked. Grant swallowed audibly. Because I didn't start this, I just benefited. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. You know who really hated Grandpa? He whispered. Mom. The call ended. And a second later, a new message arrived from the unknown number. Your mother was in the house after the ambulance left. I watched my mother at the next charity gala like she was a stranger wearing her skin. She moved through the room in a silver dress, laughing, touching wrists, leaning in close like every person there was her dear friend. The same woman who'd watched me pack a duffel bag at 18 and told me I'd thank her. When she saw me, her smile tightened. Jace, she said sweetly, you look better. I'm so glad you came. I'm not here for you, I replied. She touched my arm anyway. We're worried about you. People say you're spiraling, that you're accusing family. I leaned closer. Were you at Grandpa's house after the ambulance left? Her eyes didn't blink. What a disgusting question. But her fingers tightened on my sleeve. That was my answer. Noah had pulled door access logs from Harlan's home security. Old system, cloud synced. The night of Harlan's death, there were 2 entries after the ambulance departure. One was a staff member, verified. The second entry used an old code Harlan rarely changed. Evelyn Mercer. I confronted her in the hallway outside the gala ballroom, where the music softened and the lights were dimmer. Her face stayed smooth. I went back for his watch, she said. Sentimental? You went back for the evidence, I said. She laughed softly. Jace, you always thought you were smarter than you were. I stepped closer. Did you drug him? Her expression changed, just a flicker. Then she leaned in, voice low, warm as poison. Your grandfather was going to ruin us, she whispered. He was going to hand everything to the boy he felt guilty about and expose his own son. He was sick, Jace. He was irrational. He needed help letting go. I felt the room tilt. Help, I repeated. She smiled. Don't say things you can't prove. And then she slid a small envelope into my hand. Inside was a single photograph. Me, outside Harlan's house at midnight, taken from far away. Someone was watching me. My mother's eyes gleamed. Stop digging, she said, or the next photo won't be so clean. I walked away on legs that didn't feel like mine. Because the biggest twist wasn't the money, or the fraud, or even the sedative. It was realizing my mother hadn't just wanted the estate. She wanted the story, and she was willing to rewrite it with blood. Mason didn't let me go home. He put me in a hotel under a fake name, and had Noah mirror every file we still had onto encrypted drives. The next morning, we met with the state investigator Noah trusted, an old contact who owed him a favor. We didn't accuse. We presented. Pharmacy records, security logs, financial transfers, the missing bottle, the forged documents, the staged apartment break-in with targeted theft, and most damning, Harlan's recorded video and audio, proof he expected interference, proof he feared the people closest to him. The investigator listened without interrupting. Then he said quietly, "You're not the first person to inherit a war, but you might be the first one who brought receipts." A week later, subpoenas hit Mercer Holdings. My father was pulled into interviews. Grant's accounts were frozen. My mother's charity friends stopped answering her calls. The town that had whispered about me started whispering about them, because people love a villain once the mask slips. Grant showed up at my hotel one night alone, eyes red. "I didn't know about the sedative," he said. "I swear, I thought it was just money." "You still tried to take it," I replied. He nodded, shame swallowing him. "Yeah, and now Dad's looking at me like I'm disposable." I didn't comfort him. I didn't punish him. I just told him the truth. Welcome to being me. Months later, the guardianship petition and bank fraud attempt were formally cited in court as malicious interference, triggering Harlan's disinheritance protocol. Cal and Evelyn lost every legal claim to Mercer assets. Their social life collapsed. Their professional life followed. When the state opened a criminal fraud case tied to the transfers, my father's retirement became forced silence, and my mother, still smiling, walked into a grand jury hearing and finally ran out of room to perform. I moved into a modest house on the edge of the city. No gates, no mansion, just walls that were mine. I funded the charity work my grandfather believed in, not to look good, but because it was the only way to turn his empire into something that didn't taste like rot. Sometimes I drive past my parents' old place. The lawn is uneven now. The paint is fading. The porch light flickers. 3 people living in a house built on control, eating each other alive. I don't feel triumph. I feel freedom. Because the real inheritance wasn't the money. It was the fortress my grandfather built around the one grandson they tried to erase, and the truth he left behind, like a blade, for me to finally pick up. And if anyone ever texts me again that I'm in danger, I won't ask if it's true. I'll ask who's next.